It appears we finally have more information surrounding the attempt on Donald Trump's life, and what we can see is that assassination attempt 2 Electric Boogaloo is something that was most certainly caused by the stochastic terrorism that the media has been so consistently levying upon that of the political and media landscape. It's quite fascinating to see that this person, Ryan Wesley Routh, well, he believed that he was fighting evil, you see, that the nature of reality is simply good versus evil. And that is exactly what was presented in a Newsweek interview that he had given roughly 2 years ago when he was in Ukraine, of all places. And why is it that he was in Ukraine? Because he believed that this was a fight of good versus evil, that Vladimir Putin represented nothing more than evil itself. And what you have to realize is that someone who would actually be tackling the nature of realpolitik and foreign policy with a mindset such as this, it should highlight that they're analyzing politics with a child's worldview, that of good versus bad, completely avoiding the totality of grayscale that lies in between those two concepts, which is where the reality of the facts that matter most exist. And the thing that I think is most crucial to realize here is you can understand how it is that that person's mindset would be in correlation to all of the other narratives that have been sold by the mainstream media for so long, as they've consistently done what? Called Donald Trump nothing more than effectively the Austrian mustache man of the 21st century, relating him to people akin to that of Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, Joseph Stalin, and the like. It is quite literally insane, but what you have to realize is that is exactly what the media has been working for, to make sure that they could whip people into an emotional frenzy, to remove them from the realm of sanity itself. And in doing so, it appears what they've done is condition people to the point where they're now willing to even attempt to take the life of someone who is the presidential frontrunner for the 2024 election under the Republican Party. Absolutely insane, but alas, when you hear rhetoric like what you hear so consistently out of the media in surrounding topics like Donald Trump, you should not be surprised whatsoever. So now let's go ahead and throw it into an example of that, and then we'll get into talking about the depth of Ryan Wesley Routh and how it is that so much of the stuff that the media is currently talking about in relation to him, well, it actually isn't true.
A lot of people have tried to draw similarities between Mussolini and Hitler and the use of the terminology like vermin and the drive that those men had towards autocracy and dictatorship. The difference, though, I think makes Donald Trump even more dangerous, and that is he has no philosophy he believes in. He is not trying to expand the boundaries of the United States of America. He's not trying to overcome a neighboring country like Putin is in Ukraine. He is not going for some grandiose scheme of international dominance. All he wants is to look in the mirror and see a guy who's president. All he cares about is selfish self-promotion. That's the only philosophy he has, which makes him even more dangerous because he has actually said out loud that it would be okay to terminate the Constitution to keep him in power. He said this. He actually said those words. And the irony is all of these supposed conservative folks that have populated the Republican Party all stood around and with their thumb in their mouth going, well, yeah, okay, I guess so. It's bizarre.
Unbelievable. The woman is completely and totally unhinged, but she is most certainly not the only one at MSNBC, because as you saw Claire McCaskill there effectively correlating Donald Trump to being the funny mustache man, and I genuinely can't stand this correlation with Trump and these historical figures of the 20th century, because they are quite literally some of the greatest supervillains to walk the earth, and all because Donald Trump says brash things that you don't like, you're willing to draw corollaries between these people that cost the lives of tens of millions of people and some goofy fucking game show host that you simply don't like who's saying brash shit in the political arena that upsets you and hurts your fifis. How are there any stark corollaries to be drawn here? And the thing that I think is most intriguing here that you could actually apply would be an understanding of a cultural question that has been asked for quite some time that you could then use as a baseline to realize why someone would be willing to take a shot at Donald Trump, because all you'd have to do is look to a simple question. Would you kill baby Hitler? Does anyone remember when that was a thing that people were asking? Because many people would just say, yeah, I'd snuff him out in his crib, because we have a binary nature of understanding of good and evil. And if that's the case, and someone would say, yeah, I'd be willing to take out Hitler in the crib, well, by all means, what would you be willing to do to stop Hitler from achieving being in the White House? That is an interesting question to ask, and I think it really highlights the nature of the mindset of someone akin to that of Ryan Wesley Routh. So now let's go ahead and throw it into that clip of him speaking to Newsweek in Ukraine so you can understand the totality of his mindset, and then you can simply apply that framework to the American political landscape.
Please tell me who you are and why are you here?
I'm 56 from the U.S. From North Carolina originally, so I live in Hawaii now, so flew all the way from Hawaii here. So the question as far as why I'm here, to me, a lot of the other conflicts are gray, but this conflict is definitely black and white. This is about good versus evil. This is a storybook. Any movie we've ever watched, this is definitely evil against good. I mean, we're battling a situation here where the Ukrainians and the rest of the world are caring and kind and generous and unselfish and take care of one another, and it's just a matter of we need to stand up for that. That is the most important thing in the world, is just to show human beings that we're kind and we're caring and that we take care of one another and that the world is united so that we feed each other and make sure that we all move forward as one collective whole unit. So we feel the pain of one country's failure and their conflicts, and we enjoy the successes of other countries that are doing good, and we all work together. And for some reason, Russia does not grasp this concept that we're all one unit and we have to get along and work together and be normal human beings. This is 2022. We have to work together. It seems asinine that we have a leader in a country that does not understand the concept of being unselfish and being generous and being kind and just the basic moral values that are required by human beings these days. It blows my mind.
And what are you doing here in Ukraine?
My initial goal was to come fight. I think everybody around the globe should be motivated to come here and support the Ukrainians and support the army, no matter what gender, age, anything. Everybody should be here supporting the army. But I'm 56, so initially they were like, well, I have no military experience, so they're like, you're not an ideal candidate. So they said, not right this minute. So plan B was to come here to Kyiv and promote getting more people here.
It's honestly amazing, but the thing that you need to come to grips with is whenever you hear someone give a blanket statement such as, well, it's like a storybook, you see, it's just simply good versus evil. You have to realize that that person has been completely and entirely overtaken by propaganda, because if that's how they view the world, then by all means, in many ways, they are a non-thinking entity. They may be a deeply feeling one, which is why they would be willing to, I don't know, go to a place like Ukraine and try and fight and help these people because you believe what they're fighting against is truly an awful tyrannical force. And in many ways, you are right. But nonetheless, what we see is, based on the framing of what you delivered in this Newsweek interview, it's very clear that you are dealing with politics in a child's worldview, just like so many people are that so consistently consume the mainstream media. So now let's go ahead and jump into the mainstream media for but a moment. Here we see, from Newsweek, Ryan Wesley Routh, would-be Trump assassin, fought in Ukraine and supports the war. And it's not that he actually fought in Ukraine, it's that he went to Ukraine and then was used in assistance as a recruiter to try and get more people from the West to come to the country itself. Alrighty, so we see this and we understand what's going on here, but the thing that I found was most intriguing that the media had put forward was this article out of the New York Post. Son of alleged would-be Trump assassin, Ryan Routh claims father hates ex-president, but is not a violent person. I don't like Trump either, he says. And just the total dichotomy between what a family views their family member as and then as they are seen in the world because of how they're operating, with how their actions are applying in reality. Well, you can see that claiming your father's not a violent person doesn't matter if he had a gun and he was intending to shoot a presidential frontrunner. Clearly, he does have the capacity for violence, as we all do. Anyone telling you, oh, well, I'm simply not a violent person, all you have to realize is that individual simply needs to be in the right circumstances to tap into that threshold, because we are all capable of great violence. It is simply a matter of the fact that we have been conditioned and civilized out of using these standards to wage how it is that we would acquire whatever it is that we desire. Scrolling down a little further into this article, we're going to go ahead and see the son of alleged gunman who targeted former President Donald Trump on his Florida golf course Sunday said his dad hates Trump, like every reasonable person does. So clearly there's no bias here whatsoever, but claimed he's not a violent person. Yeah, I'm sure that holds any weight now. Orrin Routh told the Daily Mail that his father, Ryan Routh, who was arrested in the alleged assassination attempt, isn't a fan of the Republican nominee. "I don't like Trump either," he added, but the younger Routh, 35, insisted his dad is nonviolent and said he was shocked to hear about the allegations. And I find it absolutely hilarious to hear, "Oh, well, he was nonviolent," when the express intentions of why he originally had gone to Ukraine was to literally go fight in war. But yes, you see, of course, he's just non-violent. And what we need to touch on here is, well, you see, he's not a fan of Donald Trump. And apparently, every reasonable person hates Donald Trump. So clearly, what you need to understand is every reasonable person could never be a Republican or an independent leaning individual who simply didn't support the standards of the regime. Only good people support the standards of the regime within the mindset of what someone like this is projecting onto the world. And the thing that I find absolutely hilarious in relation to what we see with the narrative that is getting sold around someone like this, akin to, I don't know, good old Ryan Routh, well, the media has talked about how, well, he was a Trump supporter, you see. And then Trump's brash and violent rhetoric is what ended up turning him against these standards of what the Republican Party had to offer the American people. But that's not the case. Just like it's not the case, as was stated numerous times by the media, that he had donated to Republican institutions. And how is it that we know this? Because we can just simply go and check out where it is that these donations were actually funneling to from someone like Ryan Routh. And would you look at that, what do we have here except FEC.gov exposing who it is that Ryan Routh had donated his money to in his moments where he had just thrown a little bit of capital behind the political campaigns that he supported. Here we can see contributor name Ryan Routh, with the recipient being Act Blue every single time, with the state being Hawaii, the state he lives in, and it says the employer is not employed, which the reason that is because Ryan Routh owned his own business. This is something that I find quite stunning, because right when this information dropped about who it was that was responsible for possibly taking a shot at Donald Trump, the thing that the media ran with immediately was that this was someone who was a former Trump supporter who had donated numerous times to Republicans. But as you see here on your screen, that's simply not true. Another example of how the media narrative that they're trying to sell to you is more often than not nonsensical, felonious bullshit. So I would like to address the fact of Donald Trump's response to this attempt on his life, because in the moment when it happened, what's coming out from the chatter that is coming around from the Secret Service agents that are giving interviews, but doing so anonymously, of course, they're stating that the first thing that Donald Trump asked when he went down and they immediately ushered him off the course: what happened to the people I was with? Are they okay? Did they get to safety? Did you protect them? Were you looking out for them as well? That's impressive. I have my litany of issues with Donald Trump, and many of which I have said in a host of different videos on this channel, but that is something that I commend to the highest order. In a moment of crisis, when you saw that your life is the one that was on the line and you were most certainly, most likely the target, you still, in a moment of crisis, were concerned about those around you. And that is the hallmark of a leader, and that is exactly why so many people will gladly throw their vote behind Donald Trump and will gladly do whatever is necessary to get him elected. And I truly believe that something like this, a story such as this, if the media would of course give it the airtime required that it deserves, would actually swing a lot more independence behind someone like Donald Trump. But as we know, the media will never paint him as anything more than effectively the Austrian painter with the funny mustache for the 21st century. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you for watching if you got this far. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section down below. Stay lovely, stay great. Tell someone you love them, my friends.